So hello and welcome everyone to this virtual meetup by the Asian Seller. Today we are going to be talking about some of the trends that we see are going to be very important in 2021. And of course, we just wanted to get together as a casual meetup and see how everyone's doing, and also just wish each other, Happy New Year. So the agenda for today is going to be that we have Jason Tay, Margaret Jolly, and Kevin Oldham, and myself. The four of us have together identified 10 key trends that we see are going to be very important in 2021. So we're going to go over those 10 trends. And then we're going to basically just open up the floor for questions for about 20 minutes or so. So if you have any questions about the trends or about anything else, feel free to ask us those questions. Okay, so before we start, let's do some introductions, because I see that there's some people who might not be familiar with Jason, Margaret, Kevin. So why don't you guys do introductions first? So Jason, do you want to just tell people about yourself and how you help Amazon sellers?
Sure. So hi, my name's Jason Tay. I actually have a blog, that's jasontayonline.com. And I started selling on Amazon late 2013, and with a really, really small budget. My first private label product in December 2013 started with a budget of $80. That's now actually my top selling product. And so I've always espoused a slow and steady kind of low risk with a high probability of success kind of strategy. And so along with that, I also do training. After about, a few years selling on Amazon, I've been approached by many people. Some of them have paid for really big ticket courses, and it's sometimes really sad to see people burning like $30,000 on something that will not work. And so, I do training and coaching as part of my overall business. In terms of selling on Amazon, so I've started from, I guess, earlier than quite a lot of people. And I've also now been assigned a strategic account manager by Amazon. I just had a call with her this morning. So essentially that's actually a paid service. Amazon charges $1,600 USD per month to, I guess, like sort of big ticket sellers who hit a certain criteria and want to have an Amazon account manager. But Amazon actually approached me and they have given me a strategic account manager for free. So I look forward to working with my SAM in the coming year. And I think that's also useful. Like just this morning, I had an hour call with her, and that's already given me some insights that I never knew about to some of the different promotional things, the calendar, how like some of their deals work and all that. So that's me.
So is she based in the US, Jason, or in Singapore?
She's based in Singapore, but she's a staff with, it's specifically for the US.
For the US. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason's very modest and humble, but I will tell you, he works very closely with the Amazon team here in Singapore. And he literally has like a direct hotline to the Amazon management team here in Singapore. So yeah, and he is one of the top sellers from Singapore. Okay, Margaret and Kevin. Margaret, do you want to go?
Okay, yeah, look, I'll start. Look, Kevin and I have been selling on Amazon for just over 4 years now. We originally started sourcing our first few products from China and Korea, and then we sort of stumbled across some Indian products at a trade fair in Hong Kong, and over 3 years ago now, and we are solely selling all Indian products. We've got rid of all our China and Korean products, and doing really well with those. We just launched a couple of new products in the last 2 weeks, up and down on the roller coaster, but we've finally got enough products in there to sell a few. So it's going, once we can get some more stock in, we hopefully will be going well with those in the new year. And I suppose, I coach on the India sourcing trip with Megla. Both Kevin and I go on her trip when we can get there again. We're involved with Megla with the virtual India sourcing show. and I do some private coaching for people as well. So Kev, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I'm Margaret's VA. Margaret said it all. she hasn't left much for me to. We work together as a team. Margaret does her sort of things, and I do mine. We've been sort of involved this year because of the IST and not being able to travel. We sort of found a couple of different opportunities when we sort of put our heads together with Megla, hence the virtual India sourcing show. That was started because people came to us asking for a solution for their sourcing problems because of the trips not going ahead. And so it wasn't hard to put our heads together to put that together, really, was it, Megla?
Yeah, it's fun, actually.
It was fun. And so myself and Margaret do a lot of research and bring a lot of companies to the fore each month. We find out what they do, we sort of go in and check out all their certificates, if they sort of genuinely have a factory. And so we do the research before we bring them forward. And so we sort of sometimes have a couple of Zoom meets backwards and forwards, and then we would recommend them to Megla. And if even, you know, the quality of this stuff. And so, yeah, that's what we do each month.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and real quick about myself, in case some of you don't know me. So my background is mostly in sourcing. I've been working in the sourcing industry for almost 20 years in India, China, and of course, currently in Singapore. I was based in China for almost 10 years. And I'm the founder of India Sourcing Trip, and I also host Virtual India Sourcing Show with Kevin and Mark. So recently my focus has really been sourcing from India, but my core expertise is in China because that's where I spent most of my career. So, okay, so let's get on with our trends, with our key trends now. So kicking off with the first trend, I mean, of course, this is something that everybody is aware of, and that's probably one of the reasons you're here. But of course, the first trend that we have to mention is the continued growth of e-commerce globally. In 2020, we saw a huge jump in online sales everywhere because of the pandemic, and that will definitely continue in 2021. Jason, do you want to add to that? You're muted.
Yep. So yeah, I think everybody knows that as online is becoming more mainstream, as you've mentioned. For example, I was just in the local store before this call. I was at a local store called JB Hi-Fi, which sells electronics, and I wanted to buy one of the new MacBooks with the M1 chip, and they don't have stock. So the staff sends me a link and says, "Go order it online," because the earliest stock that can come from Victoria is in 2 weeks' time, because they don't have any stock of that in WA. I'm like, okay, whatever. But that's just to highlight that even walking into a store, they essentially asking me to order online. I think, like, for me, over Black Friday through Christmas, I bought quite a lot of accessories. I have this a few of these boxes, from Amazon. Because when you switch to a new Mac, and then I have all these different contraptions. But essentially, I bought all of that online. And so that's just something that we have to be aware of. And we want to make sure that, we, in a sense, get on that bandwagon. Yep.
Yeah, and we are in the right place at the right time. I think e-commerce is definitely poised to continue growing. I was reading somewhere that by the year 2040, over 90% of the shopping will be done online. So year on year, the percentage share of e-commerce is going to grow. So definitely, if you're not successful with one product, you will be successful with your second or third product. Don't give up. I guess that's the main thing that we want to say. There is growth in this industry, right?
90% online. That actually sounds pretty sad and scary as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
all of the Gen Zers, is it Gen Z? The lazy ones sitting at home playing video games and don't want to go out.
Yeah, well, we were surprised during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We just thought we're not going to sell too much this year, and we sort of had a Christmas within the Christmas because we had a high, a lot of sales in July and August, didn't we, mate?
Yeah, I think it was May. I think May, July,
May it started,
August, September.
yeah.
We had quite a few spike months. So,
Yeah.
in fact, some of those months were just about as good as our December. So, it was really quite surprising. So, at the moment between Christmas and New Year is looking really good for us. I don't know whether it's the government have given them a handout in America and they've already spent it, or whether it's going to keep going. I'm not too sure. I'm hoping it keeps going.
Mm.
And what's the situation like in Australia? Because previously Amazon was very slow in Australia, right? But do you see, I know Mark and Kev, you're not selling on Amazon Australia anymore, but you were selling on maybe another platform, was it, in Australia?
Yeah, we sell on Catch, but that's okay. Catch works okay, but I think Amazon Australia just hasn't really taken off. Look, I mean, you get some people have a really successful product, like just say you're selling beach towels or something that's really an Australian, thong, something that we use in the summer or something like that. It'll probably take off, but I think just the general products don't seem to do much. Like a lot of our products, Amazon US put onto the Australian website. And I mean, they do load the price up a lot, but I mean, I don't think we've ever sold anything here in Australia.
But probably like Singapore though. Singapore, depending on what you sell, I think a few marketplaces, the small ones, depending on what you sell, because I mean, obviously we can't get the software to search what is selling, and so you can sort of guess at sort of what is sort of selling, but there is some things that we were trying to sell that it was like watching paint dry at one stage, unfortunately, and it was quite expensive to bring stuff to Australia, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, because you're only bringing a small amount over because we didn't, want to bring thousands, and it's very costly to ship small amounts.
And then it's expensive to ship in Australia, so you've got to price accordingly. So.
Yeah, and I think Singapore is the same currently. Amazon Singapore is currently very slow. Of course, overall e-commerce is growing very fast in Singapore. There's Lazada, other marketplaces. But we are sort of hearing that Amazon Singapore will expand to other countries in Southeast Asia. And Elton was just sharing with us before we press the record button that Amazon is now, or the Singapore team is getting active in Malaysia, and they're maybe considering expanding Amazon Prime to Malaysia. So I think that is coming. I mean, Jason, you probably can't say anything officially, but maybe, you've heard rumors.
I know nothing.
And okay.
I don't even have the cat in the bag.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's move on to the second trend. But before that, let's welcome Baptiste Porzier, who has joined us from France. Hi, Baptiste. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Megla. Thank you for having me today. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Hey, Baptiste, do you want to quickly give a brief introduction to everybody and tell people what exactly is it that you do?
Yes. So I have started to sell on Amazon in 2017, first as an arbitrage, in the arbitrage model in London. I didn't have a car. It was not very convenient. So I quickly just gave up and I went towards the private label. And there was a bit of a lack of knowledge where I was going. So I started to network. I met with an incredible 7-figure seller that lived in Shenzhen. Invited me to come over and work together. So I moved over to China, where I learned a lot more about manufacturing and sourcing, product development, and of course the back end of Amazon, listing optimization, translation, whatnot, you name it, and worked for different sellers. And ended up working with manufacturers themselves to help them jump on Amazon. And it was sort of helped by Amazon Global Selling. And I did that over a year, and I was working with a big seller as well, like 8-figure seller at scale. So it was very interesting. But then the pandemic hit, and I had to move over to Taiwan, where I sort of ceased working very closely to Amazon, and I had to repatriate in France. So right now I'm looking at different opportunities, but there's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And I think it sticks very well with the topic today, which is the branding. Well, branding is a bit of a stuff everything there word, but the way that I express it is, how to optimize conversion for not just your product but your brand, and how to lever, how to use social media and content creation to do that. There's very underrated areas that not many people talk about that can be leveraged for your brand. And in the acquisition market era, I think it's tremendous opportunity for Amazon sellers to actually develop on that. It doesn't cost that much money and creativity to have enormous results. So I'm gonna try to prove that and advocate for that.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Baptiste, and feel free to jump in anytime. So we're just going over some of the trends that we see are important in next year. Okay, so let's move on to trend number 2. And Jason, this is you. So there is growth. E-commerce is growing, but of course there are growing pains. So what are some of the keys to thriving in this landscape, Jason?
Yeah, so with the, like overall e-commerce growing, it also means like the market will get more crowded. And so I think it's really important to start to really niche down or really identify what you want to sell in terms of not just products, but also keywords. I always emphasize that. So it's both keywords and products where the competition is low or is weak. And like what Baptiste touched on earlier, I think if you can add brand value to the overall proposition, that's also one way that you can stand out from the competition. We'll talk more about that, some of the other ways to stand out in the midst of all that competition as e-commerce becomes more and more mainstream. And I think we'll cover that in some of the other 8 remaining points. Right. So let's leave it at that for now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what's important to remember is that it is getting more competitive because also more people are jumping onto the e-commerce bandwagon, right? I mean, during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs and they're looking for other business opportunities maybe. So there are a lot more people joining in e-commerce. So definitely more competition. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, learning to fish. So Jason, how do we identify the right products, and especially when there is increased competition?
For me, that's fundamental to my overall strategy, or that's the foundation to what I do in terms of e-commerce. It's always to identify products with keywords which I can rank for. So whether that be selling on my own website, then for that, I would look for keywords that I can rank for on a Google search. And then if it's for Amazon, then it's to also understand that Amazon is essentially a search engine. And so whatever product you want to sell, you must make sure that it has a wide array or multiple keywords for which you can fairly easily rank for. The analogy I often use is if in Australia, you would use the term suburb, or in Singapore, where many of the viewers, participants right now are from, we call it like a housing estate. So imagine if it was a brick and mortar chain store, let's say a Subway outlet or a McDonald's outlet. Every store you open in every suburb, I think of that as one keyword. Because when you, let me use an actual example from my magic Amazon box. So I recently bought this USB-C for my new MacBook. adapter to like VGA and HDMI. And you can see the seller has just pasted the FN SKU printed on plain paper with a piece of tape. But for a product like this, if I ask like the 20 of you here on this call, what you would call it, I might get like 15, 20 different answers. So every one of those keywords is an opportunity to reach a different audience base. So to me, that's the same as opening an outlet in a different suburb. Every keyword is a new suburb, a new demographic that you reach out to. And so that's one key for me in terms of really working in that increasingly crowded environment to look for low competition keywords.
Right. And this is not something new. I mean, this is something that is not specifically for 2021, but it's even more important to do that moving forward because there is more competition and, there are more people being trained in e-commerce and getting experienced in e-commerce. Okay, so that's number 3, really focus on identifying the right products, continue to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and one more thing, maybe specific to Amazon. If you are selling on Amazon, it's important to understand the different functionalities and features. So for example, if you get brand registered, like a lot of people don't want to get brand registered initially, but if you get brand registered, I was drafting an article recently and I'm sort of counting the different marketing advantages or functionalities that are on Amazon if you are brand registered versus if you are not. I'm already at their in terms of advertising, there are at least 12 to 18 additional ad types that you can run on Amazon pay-per-click advertising if you are brand registered. And those are much lower competition ad spaces, which with a lot more potential in terms of ROI. For example, if you did a video ad, very few people are running video ads. I just did a video ad recently. It's very simple, essentially just my product, and then the text, just like one line, next line, and next line. Similar to what Megla did for this Zoom call. Essentially, it's just essentially a still with a moving little thing. But that's enough to get a video ad going, and I am having incredible ACoS on that ad. Like it's very, very low percentage with very, very effective return. So yeah, or like another example, I just learned this today because of my call with my strategic account manager. She said, try to get a deal of the day. That's one of the promos on Amazon. She said, because if you can get a deal of the day, essentially you get 3 months of sales in 24 hours. I'm like, what?
Is it super expensive to get
No,
the deal
it's
of the day?
free.
Oh,
but the selection criteria is very stringent, meaning you can...
Jason, we did that with Australia when we were in Australia, and they give us a strategic account manager, and they offered us all these deals of the day. But as I said before, the products that we were selling, they weren't really, sort of what people
in the
were
US
for, which is a shame because
now
I think
the
are
US
looking for them products.
Yep, the US criteria to be eligible for deal of the day is very high. The SKU needs to be already 6 figures in sales, just the SKU by itself, right, in a month. Otherwise, it will not be eligible.
Right. Oh, okay.
Or the SKU with its variations. So if it's a parent-child variation, it could be all the variations combined, at least 6 figures per month. But
what are the key benefits, Jason? I think it's important because it's not always profitable, but you do get a lot of velocity. So what are the key profits to run such deals?
I think whether it's deal of the day or lightning deals or the 7-day deals, they're quite similar in some sense. You really have to know your numbers. So if you have a very good think of it in terms of this. This is going to be a bit complex, some math involved. So your sales total sales, if you calculate, is the conversion rate multiplied by the impressions. Okay, think of it this way. If you can figure out the formula or write it down. So then you have to look at your statistics. If your conversion rate is very good, let's say your conversion, it's a 20% conversion rate. Then what you now know is, okay, I'm already converting well at the normal selling price. Therefore, it means if I can increase my impressions, this product is going to sell like crazy. And so if you did a lightning deal or deal of the day or whatever, or coupon, you could offer a very minimal discount, let's say like 10% off, 15% off, or like $2 off, depending. That might translate to a big bump up in sales because the deals get highlighted and the product already converts well. Right? So that's if you have a good conversion rate. Then the goal is to increase impressions. Because if you can get your impressions from, let's say, 100,000 to 200,000, and it still maintains the conversion rate, you double your sales. The other thing that might be happening, if let's say your conversion rate is bad, so maybe you get a fairly high number of impressions, but you don't get a lot of conversions, then you have to look at things like maybe my selling price is too high. Then in that case, okay, I can get a lot of impressions. Do I have enough margin to run, let's say, a deep discount? But a lot of people go in and they are working with like a 10% margin from day one. Then you have no margin to run ads. You have no margin to do anything. So another key is like to make sure you have margins, and that will allow you to do a lot of stuff. So, yep, conversion rate good, then aim to increase impressions. Conversion rate bad, then look at why it's bad, whether it's a pricing issue or whether it's the listing issue.
So Jason, when's your next meeting with your account manager? We're going to schedule our meetup on that day in the evening.
It's once a month. Basically, she has drawn up a plan in order to increase my sales by X percentage. So essentially, she gets paid if she makes me succeed.
Oh, that's
more.
Awesome.
So then she's drawn up this whole calendar where, and then she's gonna like keep tabs on me and hold me accountable. Like, hey, you need to I have 4 pieces of homework or whatever I have to do before she talks to me the next time.
That's cool. Okay, so let's keep moving on here. Okay. So we've got 3. Now let's talk about the 4th one, which is diversification. Now, Jason, why is diversification important?
Right. So for me, I used to be a combat engineer in the military. So one of the things that we do is, if the enemy is going to cross and then there's a bridge, we blow up the bridge and then the enemy cannot cross, right? So I always have the concept of you want to have multiple bridges, because if one bridge gets blown up, you're not trapped. And so for me, diversification is diversifying by products, keywords, sources, sales channels, and traffic funnels. Let me just quickly explain each one very briefly. So in terms of products, if you diversify your products, that allows you to scale. So if one product generates X revenue and X profit, the easiest way to grow is add another product, right? So you grow your product base. In terms of keywords, I think I've already mentioned this. For every product, I always have multiple keywords that I am trying to rank for. I like to start off with a minimum base of at least 5 good keywords before I would proceed to even look for a supplier for a product. For me, 5 good keywords, I have a metric, because I have a spreadsheet with different criteria and color-coded cells and all that, and all have to be green lights and so forth. And then for sourcing, personally, I have products that are made in the US, I have products made in Australia, I have products made in China, I have products made in Taiwan, I've worked with products from Kenya, I have sourced from India. So it was helpful during the COVID-19 period. So like, for example, in February, my China supplier couldn't function for a couple of months, but at least, but less than half my stuff is made in China. So like, okay, not too bad. And then later on, there was forest fires in the US, and one of my US suppliers actually had to evacuate, like their factory and house was in danger of being burnt down. But at that time, my China supply chain was back up. So for me, even this year, that helped me to appreciate my diversified sourcing streams. Next, in terms of sales channels, I don't just sell on Amazon. Like, sometimes I'm like a speaker for an Amazon summit. So then I won't say this. I don't just sell on Amazon. I do not want to put all my eggs in the Amazon basket. I think like one of the guys who attended my training, my first or second batch of training here, his name is Felix. He's now an Amazon ambassador.
He's here.
Yeah. Essentially, Amazon contacted me to be ambassador. I said, why don't you all call Felix? Because I know he's legit too. So in terms of diversifying sales channels, the last time I spoke to Felix, he was also trying to build his own or grow his own website sales. So for me, besides Amazon, I also sell on multiple other marketplaces. But outside of Amazon, my biggest sales channel is probably my own website.
Right.
Yep.
So diversification is important, but I think in terms of marketplaces, if you're just starting out, Jason, would you say, start with Amazon first, set up your account and, set up your product on Amazon first and be familiar with Amazon. And once you're generating steady sales, then you start diversifying into other channels.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. So for me, I did start out on Amazon first. And because of the scale, for example, I started on the US marketplace. Because of the scale of the Amazon US marketplace, that allowed me to quickly be able to raise capital then to, after that, for example, expand to Singapore. And then I rent my own little warehouse space in Singapore. I have staff there that does fulfillment. And that allowed me to then do a lot of other things. So yes, I do find that it's helpful to start on Amazon, particularly the bigger marketplaces.
Yeah, US.
Yep. So if I focus on, for example, starting in Singapore on any of the marketplaces, even if you did very well, even if you're like the top, like whatever percentage of sellers on that marketplace, the total, in terms of quantum, the revenue profit and the actual figures that you end up with would still be relatively much smaller than what you could achieve, let's say, in the US market.
Yeah.
Which is like a couple 100 times bigger than the Singapore market.
Definitely. So in terms of sourcing, of course, I think it's also very important to diversify. And, one of the reasons we started focusing on India a couple of years ago was when the trade war started between the US and China and people were looking for alternatives. And, that's when I started India Sourcing Trip, and then we diversified into other services as well. But India is not the only sourcing market. I mean, there's Vietnam, as Jason says, US, Australia. There are so many other different markets where you can source from, but definitely don't put all your eggs in one basket. Again, China is the main sourcing hub and production hub for all products. It's sort of a one-stop shop from where you can buy all types of products. And for some products, there is no other production hub. China is the only source. For example, if you're doing electronics, there is no other country in the world that can actually produce electronics products at the scale that China is doing. So for some products, you don't have a choice. You have to source from China. But what you could also do is look for other product categories that other countries are strong in and diversify your product range while you're also diversifying your sourcing markets. So for example, India is good with wooden products, home decor, metal kind of products. Vietnam has a lot of footwear, apparel, furniture, if anyone's interested, very large factories of furniture in Vietnam. Similarly, Australia, there's a lot of cosmetics in Australia. And I think, Jason, from the US, what are you sourcing? I mean, what category is it from the US? Is it also health and beauty?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, those.
Okay. Supplements is another one, Jason, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't do supplements, but
no, we know someone who does.
Yeah, so, if you wanted to do supplements to sell in the US, I guess you would want to make it there as well. Yeah, that will make it much easier in terms of importation and FBA clearance. And anyways, like I always say this, if you're gonna sell milk powder, you wouldn't make it in China.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Anything
not,
that goes,
not even the people in China want to buy the made in
Exactly.
China milk.
anything that goes in the mouth, don't buy in China.
Okay, so that's yeah.
Sorry. Having said that, I think for a lot of the people on the call, if you're new to selling, diversification is something that you deal with in the longer term. I think when you're starting out, you want to be very laser focused. Pick 1 or 2 or 3 products and really do them well, and maybe try to focus on sourcing from one place for a start. Because if you try to diversify too early, you'll just end up, I think, your focus will be too divided.
Right. So I see some questions here, but we'll take questions in a bit. Let's just go through the list first. So we've got diversification. That's number 4. We've got to move a bit faster. So number 5 is dealing with disruptions to supply chains. Now, this is going to continue to be an issue, and you have to have good relations with your 3PL service providers, and you want to make sure that they do give you space in their warehouses. So Margaret, do you want to talk a little bit about this? You've been dealing with this.
Well, yeah, I suppose for those of you who haven't been selling during the year and don't really know the roller coaster that we all had, things were sort of swimming along nicely. And then once COVID hit and everyone in America wanted toilet rolls and hand sanitizer, Amazon basically said to us, we can't service you anymore. Your goods are in our warehouse. So we ended up using we swapped from FBM to fulfilling it by merchant, which meant we could actually advertise it as a merchant. It's a bit hard to explain, but get Amazon to fulfill it, which worked okay for us. But I mean, I just find it a lot of hard work, a lot more dealing with the customers, which under Amazon's rules, it's pretty hard for us to deal with the customers. I didn't do that. We did it for about a month, and I don't want to do it again unless it ever happened to that extent where we couldn't, it virtually froze our accounts. So after that, then everyone started selling again. But the problem was by then, I think, well, China, India, everyone was starting to sort of get, I suppose, a backlog with all the COVID and not being able to supply goods by the due date. So I think everyone suffered that slowly along the chain. So, but it was up and down because you were selling a lot and then America would sort of slow down again. And then we had some really peaks and troughs and some really great months. But at that point then, because of the supply chain, you started to sort of run out of stock or run behind with your stock. Then I found, what happened with, I think, everyone I know, Amazon all of a sudden one day said to us, Q4, you can only put in 200 of every product and you can only have so many cubic feet of storage, et cetera, et cetera. So most people got caught with that and just really struggled to, you couldn't have the goods in. A lot of them had goods on the water by this stage. So they had to divert it into a 3PL, depending how you had your setup. So that became a real heartache. We'd always dealt with a 3PL. We always had a 3PL put our goods in there because Q4 is quite expensive. It's nearly 4 times as costly to store your goods in Amazon in Q4, which is October, November, December, as it is any other month. So it can eat into your profit very quickly and you can get a big storage bill. So we've always had a 3PL backup with most of our stock and just drip feed in as we need anyway. Cost-wise, it can be a little bit more expensive during the year, but I put more straight into Amazon at that point. You just got to work your way through that. But then I think everyone got stuck because some people I know diverted and were running FBA and FBM. So they had some in a warehouse, some in Amazon. But if you didn't have that relationship and didn't know, and I still see posts today, does anyone know a 3PL? I've got to get some goods into a 3PL. So I think if you are starting to sell, you need to choose a 3PL, and depending if you're coming from China, it should probably be somewhere on the West Coast because that's where your goods will be going into. If you're going from India, it would be somewhere on the East Coast because that's where your goods will mainly get shipped into. So I think that everyone selling on Amazon is a fool if they don't now open up a 3PL account because if this roller coaster continues next year, if you have, you can get caught out and have products that you just, have got nowhere to put them. And, I don't know what you're going to do if you get into America and then you're stuck with this stuff in customs because they charge a fortune a day. So I think that that's probably one of the most important things at the moment is to get a 3PL account open and maybe put some goods in there so you've established yourself as a client. And, look, our 3PL is fantastic. He's great, dispatches the same day. I never have an issue getting my goods out of there. Very efficient service, but, they're not all that good. You hear some horror stories where people take weeks to get their goods out. So I think that's one of the most important things for this coming year because we might need it. Who knows? We don't know what Amazon are going to do to us in 3 months' time. We have no idea. And, COVID in America, what's going to happen? There's too many open books at the moment. So I think it's it's
still wherever you look in the world. I mean, I heard that, I was reading something today that even China now, because of the CNY, there's a little sort of second or third wave of sort of COVID sort of things going on. And the same, like in America, has been reported sort of out of control, but whether that's true or not, who knows? And then the different strains. So who knows what next year holds for us? But I guess we're still going to have to sort of somehow get, the world still needs a supply of goods and services, and so life goes on. We've all got to sort of do those things. So it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think you've really just got to be able to, move with the time. So, today you're doing this, tomorrow you've just got to be able to pivot and go the other direction. Yeah. It's no good whinging about it. It's happened. It's a rule now, and that's the way it is. So I think you've got to you can't just say, I'm not going to do that. I'll only do this, because you might have to change and put it into a 3PL or whatever. It's just the way that this world's ended up this year. And I think it's probably good because it makes people actually not be so comfortable and have to, get on the roller coaster, which we've all been up and down on.
I'd like to chime in a little bit on this, and if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And I just want to circle back to profit. It's all about knowing your numbers, as Jason said. And, if you do have those margin when you calculate your product, then you're more able to keep an agile stance to whatever comes your way. So, it's so important when you look at a product to look at it from this angle and give you enough margin to anticipate any changes. Now, for the Inventory Performance Index, the IPI, we've seen tremendous change in 2020. Recently, apparently, people have been granted, this week, some extra inventory that no one expected. They had no notification whatsoever. Is it going to stay in 2 weeks' time? No one knows. The only sure thing is that if you control your supply chain and if you manage your index in such a way that, if you show Amazon that you manage it, your score is going to improve, and most likely you're going to have more privilege. That's one advantage that you can take above your competition, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to bring that angle, which I think is important.
Absolutely. So real quick, Sastra has a question. Do I also need to diversify 3PL? Does anyone want to answer that?
Sure. I can jump in on that.
Yeah.
I think if you don't need to at the moment and you're just starting out, just focus on establishing a good workflow and a good relationship with whoever you're working with. And then as you grow and you need to, then sure. I use 3 or 4 different prep companies in the US, or 3PLs. One of my favorite ones, they actually closed. This was a few years ago. The entire staff team, they went out for lunch and they were in a really bad car crash in the US. It was on the news. And so 3/4 of the staff team was essentially wiped out in one accident.
Oh my gosh.
And then they closed subsequently. Yeah. So that's really kind of outlier kind of. It was really sad and something that was completely unforeseen, but stuff like that can happen. Also, depending on what you want to achieve from the 3PL, then different 3PLs might suit you better, depending on what you're trying to do.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to number 6, which is video content. And this is something that Amazon is increasingly focusing on nowadays, and especially as Jason, you were mentioning previously, PPC video ads, those are doing really well. So first of all, Mark, Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about video content and what you're seeing happening?
Well, look, we've got a very close friend who has done extremely well this year. He launched a new product and in 5 months sold $1 million in sales of that product. And his main focus, the whole thing was no giveaways, no search, find, buys, no none of that stuff. Basically PPC video ads. That's really all he did, and focusing on, he's a keyword man, so he's focusing on keywords. And, he swears by them, and he just said, it's so much cheaper. And it is good to have, I think, the video ads, but also people who, if you need to go and have a look at a few, I suppose, Amazon ads to see, but nowadays you can also have, you can end up with 9 photographs and 2 videos if you put it all up. So you can have a PPC video ads only short. It's only, 30, 40 seconds or something, but you can actually have another video that goes for a minute and a half on your listing as well. And so you can, do a really comprehensive, sort of video about your product or how to put it together or whatever you've got. That can be a little bit expensive for those just starting out. And what you can do, you can make your own videos. You can use your actual images and use, like InVideo is one that I've been using, and you just maybe grab 3 images, you can write on it, you can put music to it. We actually have a brand with 9 products in it. So what I do is I do 3 sort of shots of the product, and then the last photo is all my products, and I explain my brand. So I'm getting a free ad for my 9 products in that video that's running on one product, and Amazon haven't stopped me yet. They haven't told me to tell. I thought they might have made me take the back sheet out, but they approved it. So it's a good way of getting some more advertising, and that's free. I mean, all it costs you is the video ad, and I think it's about, $17 or something a month. No, it's about $12 US a month to do the video ads. And I mean, you don't have to keep it running. Once you've made all your ads, you can cancel it again. So I think that's something that is going to be a real big trend, and not a lot of people have those video ads running yet. So if you can get in now and beat your competition, it's a really good start.
So video ads are only available if you're brand registered.
You need to be brand registered.
But you can add videos on your listing, or you can add a video on your listing, even if you're not brand registered.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something to really keep in mind. Videos and product videos and video ads. Okay, number 7, social e-commerce. I think this is going to be pretty important, and it has been growing and increasing over the last few years. There's Instagram shopping, and Facebook is making so many changes and also launching so many e-commerce functions. And lately we've been seeing Amazon Live that is very popular, and there's a different app for Amazon Live. And in fact, now we are also seeing some of the live videos in the search results, on the search results page, or on your, on your Amazon homepage. When you go there, you're seeing these Amazon Live videos in your feed over there. So Amazon Live is something that you should look at. And Baptiste, do you want to add something, because you're really focused on social media and social commerce? What sort of trends are you seeing in 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Amazon is only rolling out something they had in mind for a long time. If you know Asia, of course, and if you've been in China, you see that Taobao has been doing the live video for a while now, a few years, and the results are as good as some influencer that actually have a shop. They stream 24 hours, 7 days a week. They make sometimes $1 million a day. That's how crazy this trend is. And it's definitely going this way. We've been hearing about Amazon going for that feed, live streaming, influencer, stores and whatnot. So it's definitely a trend that's going to come stronger and stronger. And right now, I don't see many sellers talking about it. I mean, PPC is one pillar of selling on Amazon, and I think it should not be underestimated. However, when I see so many sellers spending so much time and money trying to figure this out, when there's like brand new territories opening, I'm just thinking like, how crazy is that? You just mentioned it with videos. You can, Margaret said it, you can do a production yourself, but you get that big space on the page, which is insanely profitable. So why not so many people do it? Just because there's always a gap between the adoption. And this is where, as a seller starting, you've got a lot of space to come and compete with already established sellers, in my opinion. So another things that I want to take this analogy before I'll jump to TikTok and other social media platforms. When Amazon was before the days it was first marketplace in the US and on Earth, without talking about China, but when eBay was the very first marketplace, Amazon has been leveraging Google AdWords as soon as it came out, and they invested massively to get all the keywords possible and to push their listings on Amazon. And they've been doing that consistently for over a decade. And as a result, they passed eBay, and they're where they are right now. And it just shows one thing. It shows the cost of acquisition of your customer, the cost of conversion, where you can leverage those brand new territories with the minimal cost. The reach is absolutely incredible. So that's why I'm very passionate about that, and I want to advocate, and I want to open a service to just show it doesn't even matter the quality, it's just doing it. So if you get someone to do it for you, then and just really dispatch it everywhere, you can have so much return on your investment. That's just crazy. Even if you spend like 5,000 to make a video campaign and have some TikTok done and some Instagram or linking. Right now, the two biggest platform where the organic, so zero paid reach is the biggest is TikTok and LinkedIn. So those are not exactly the same crowd, but like if you sell, let's say, diaper caddy, there's a lot of professionals that actually work, but also have a family life, and a lot of mother that are professionals on LinkedIn. Well, you can address some content to them by targeting those keywords, those hashtags. There's a lack of content right now, so all that real estate can be grabbed for casually free. And on TikTok, with a few influencers, you can just bring some brand awareness and just bring it back to your website, or like what are the 5 topics that your brand is talking about, the 5 value proposition, or like core values that your brand is all about. This is what you need to push to bring the awareness. And right now there's so much space to grab for free. It's just insane. So I advise every new sellers to have a close look at this to take a definite advantage over your existing competition in your niche.
Okay, that's great. And Sastra is saying, I can see TikTok videos on WhatsApp and YouTube all over. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, number 8 is influencer marketing. I think this is also increasingly becoming so important, and this is something that you guys should focus on next year. And you don't have to go after the really big influencers that have millions of followers. There are a lot of micro influencers nowadays that you can also approach, and they would, sometimes just charge maybe a couple of $100s, or sometimes they don't even charge anything. They just want a free product, and they will review it and share it with their audiences. And I personally know companies that have really received a lot of sales through this medium. So influencer marketing is definitely really important, and you guys should look into it. So that's number 8. Number 9.
With the influencer, you can also do creative partnerships. So you don't have to, if you don't have an audience, what you can do is reach out to somebody that's got already an audience, another brand that doesn't necessarily sell your product, but it is sort of in the same category. Then reach out to them and say, like, look, we could be profitable by just sharing content. And then you would be surprised how many people actually are up for it. So you can leverage other already existing audience and also target them with a pixel on your campaigns, so to bring the audience over to you. And that's a great trick to get started.
Right. Great. Okay, number 9, exit and acquisition. So this is something that we've been seeing in the industry. There are a lot of these large companies like Thrasio and some other companies that are buying smaller Amazon businesses, and this is a huge opportunity for Amazon sellers like yourself. You can try to build a brand with the objective of, in a couple of years, selling it to one of these companies. So that is a huge opportunity in 2021. And Margaret, Kevin, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, right from the start, Megla, we have always been aware of creating a brand with the intent of selling that brand to cash in for all our hard work for the time that we put in. And we know people now that it's sort of now, it's all about prepping that business for sale, because it's all about selling, a business without sort of any loose ends. So, you've got to start off, you've got to have the company set up, you've got to have, all the things in place to make that company sort of clean. So when you do have a company that wants to take over yours because of the Amazon thing, there's a lot of things can go wrong, I would imagine, in selling a business, through, an online business. And there's companies like Thrasio that sort of now make that all a lot easier. And we know people, Margaret, that this year have cashed in big time. And so it's really well worth, all the effort that you put in over the years to actually get to the time where you just sort of cash out.
Yeah, I think people have got to realise it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you probably need, a couple of years, unless you really, really scale hard and fast. You probably need at least 2 years financials and a reasonable profit, because how it works is you might have turned over $1 million, but they're not going to pay you on that $1 million. They want to look at your P&L and your very bottom line. So if you've only made $50,000 out of that $1 million, you're not going to get much for your business, because I think it's about 2.5 times your net profit. So I think, you've got to, once again, when you start looking for your products, you need to look for products with meat in them. It's no good just doing a product that's going to make you $2 at the end of it. So I think probably for those new, it's knowing the cost of doing business on Amazon. That's the very first thing you need to do. It's no good getting to the end and somebody says to you, oh, PPC, and you've allowed $1. It's not enough. So I think you need to take into account every cost that you're going to have in that business when you start, because if you want to sell it at the end, even though you might have had a fantastic, and I know people who have turned over $500,000 last year and actually lost money because they were spending too much money on like advertising and just their products. They didn't have enough margin to cover all those things. So you've got to make sure that you get it right and scale your whole business with that plan of an exit, because unless you're going to get, something reasonable for your profit, it's not worth selling. You don't really want to give it away to someone else if it's your hard work. And there's a lot of mums and dads, I think, in America probably looking at the moment, like retiring, wanting to take on a business and don't want to start it from scratch, because it is hard work getting all your trademark and your branding and everything done. So they want to just come in. So they're prepared to pay, maybe $100,000 or something for a fairly small business. And that's the way you can make an exit without you don't have to have a multi-million dollar business. There are small brokerage companies that will buy smaller businesses. Thrasio and that are more up in the $1 million plus sort of businesses, but there are some other brokers out there that will do smaller type businesses, like another couple, or somebody who's just wanting to start out, who doesn't want to do the hard yards to start, but they need to have the profit there from the accountants to do it.
Right. So Jason, do you want to address Sastro's question here? Should I be thinking about selling the business before starting the business, or when already running in the business?
Sorry, I was muted. I was actually typing an answer to that. So I was going to say, focus on the fundamentals. For me, the fundamentals are identifying the right products that have a high probability of success with low risks. Number two, you must make sure that they have good profit margins, as Margaret's just emphasized. That's both in terms of a profit margin percentage as well as the dollar amount. And then learn how to scale this to a point where it's generating sizable profit. And then I think at that point, then you can start thinking about, okay, should I cash out? Because, yeah, especially if you're starting out, sure, you can have that in mind, but in order to achieve that, the focus is not having that big, like that pipe dream. The focus is on, okay, let me start selling stuff without a huge amount of risks, with a high probability of them working, and that have great profit margins. Because I've encountered people, I share this sometimes in some of my classes, I've encountered a couple, sadly, actually I've encountered more than one couple, several people who are source products, like they ordered 5,000 units of something for like $8 each. And then they engage me and says, okay, we've ordered 5,000 units already. Tell us, how can we sell on Amazon? I look at their product, we go to Amazon, and the market price for their product is $9. And that's for a branded version of the product. And theirs is like, you know, you start with a made up brand, right? And their $8 cost hasn't even included shipping from where the product is in China to the US. So essentially, they'll end up with making a $3 loss per sale. That kind of product might generate $1 million in revenue, but it's completely pointless because you just end up losing money for every single sale.
Exactly.
And also understand like whether there's market depth, there's demand for the product in the first place. Like another example, another person, real life examples. They identified a product, again, ordered several thousand units. And then when we studied the market, essentially the best seller, a branded brand for that product type, was selling 50 units per month. So they had, just based on what they thought this is a cool product, we're going to sell it, but nobody wants to buy the product, essentially. And even the best seller, which was branded, was selling 50 units a month. So like with 5,000 units, what, you're going to take like 100 months to clear stock if you can unseat the best seller and take 100% of the market share, which is not going to happen. So yeah, just be very clear about all these things. I think while we're talking about trends for 2021 today, I think ultimately focus on the fundamentals. Sure, the general trends are that e-commerce is growing every year. The fundamentals are that, the trend is that more people are jumping on. Some spaces are getting more crowded, but some new niches are opening up. And there are also gaps in the marketing and sales funnel, like we talked about video ads. Maybe, if it's okay, can I take like 10 seconds to show an example? I'll just quickly share my screen.
Let me just quickly go over the last trend, which is number 10, and then you take over. So yeah, number 10, what we thought is new ways to collaborate and network. I think that's going to be interesting because we've seen this new app Clubhouse that is very popular suddenly, and Telegram, where we have our Asian seller group, has also launched a similar feature. It's sort of like a room where you have where you can do audio calls, and multiple people can join in the room, and it's sort of a persistent audio call. You just jump into the room anytime and talk with people, and then jump out when you want to exit. So that's something that's interesting, and everybody needs to network and work together, and so this is something that we see happening in 2021 increasingly. Okay, Jason, over to you now.
Yeah, this was just because of something that Kev, Margaret, and Baptiste brought up about video ads and marketing. So I just want to show like an actual real life example.
Sure.
So people can visualize it. So I just typed in here dog training pad. I'm not saying sell this, right? It might be like a really saturated product. But just as an example, check this page out. So this is typical I would say the majority of Amazon sales, unless it's social media marketing, they would be driven, search engine driven. So somebody wants to buy dog pee pads, they come here and they search either dog pee pad, dog training pad, or something similar. And then they would scroll down. Now, the whole key, fundamental thing for Amazon sellers is we want to try to get to the top of page 1, or as close to the top of page 1 for as many of these keywords as possible, because that's where we get our traffic and then the potential clicks and sales. Now, check this out. So the first space here is what we call the headline ad. So you need to be brand registered if you want to occupy this banner ad space. Then you have the first, most search results are arranged like that, like 4 products in a row. So you have, in this case, you can see it's very competitive. Like there's 4 sponsored ads here for really low competition products. Sometimes you see like only 1 or 2 ads, or maybe no ads in the first row. So then you see it's all here. If you can get on, if your ads can show up here, whoa, you get a lot of eyeballs, right? And then, of course, ultimately, we also want to get here now is the top row of organic results. By organic for new sellers, what we mean is the search engine has ranked these as number 1 organically for the search term dog training pad, because these are sponsored. So these are PPC ads, but these are not. Right? So first row of organic results. And here's the thing I want to highlight. Before even the second row of organic results, what do you get here? Something that occupies the space of 4 other listings. It occupies an entire row. This is actually just 1 video ad. And I like to use this, like a dog pee pad is really easy to do, right? Like honestly, these are just simple still shots. Just have a cute 2-second video of a cat, cute 2-second video of a dog, and then stills with like that, which can be easily done on a phone app, to be honest. Like you don't even need to pay anyone to do this. You could do this. Like I understand this as someone who's not in the States, and also I'm neither, I don't like to use the race thing, but I'm neither a black African American or a white American. I'm sort of like a Southeast Asian looking person. So having me on a video might not be as effective, honestly. So, but a video like this, you don't even need to show yourself, right? You just need a cute picture of a dog and a cute picture of a cat or whatever, and then just show what it is. But you occupy so much screen real estate. This is like prime real estate, guys. So that's just what I wanted to quickly share, that it is not that complicated to do something like that. But the returns, the impact is so great potentially. Yep. Okay, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jason and Negla, we come across so many people who spend absolutely thousands of dollars pursuing a particular thing. You know, like Baptiste brought up TikTok. So someone will go, oh, I need a TikTok expert to, you know, and then it's like the race is on and they're spending heaps of money. And we know a lot of people have just foolishly, you know, spent money on sort of trends instead of educating themselves on that trend and learning for themselves. Myself and Margaret, we're not IT geniuses by any stroke of the imagination, but we will work things out to our, you know, to suit ourselves. You know, with Amazon, you can't pay everyone to do everything for you. And like that's what you just showed us then, Jason, is simplicity in itself, costs very little, and it's got the prime real estate. It's one of them, it takes over the monopoly board. So fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and now's the time to get on there because it's not very crowded right now. There are not too many people doing those video ads.
I told a question in the chat though, but I'm not sure whether anyone noticed that question of mine.
Yeah, I was just going to read that. So does any speaker address the D2C model, selling to community rather than advertising with Amazon PPC? So, yeah, do you mean on Amazon itself, Elton?
Not specifically to Amazon. So let's say if I run through a certain committee to sell. But Amazon will say that, is there anything that I need to put disclaimer and all that? So I'm not very sure about this part. Like Amazon cut the commissions 50% right now, right? So we're thinking of diversification model like what Jason is sharing. So maybe there's some example he will share, like how do we diversify if you to sell a certain product to a certain committee, more different type of niche products compared to what I'm selling on Amazon. So that is something that I'm trying to figure out. Yeah.
So like selling in a Facebook group, for example, are you referring to that? So sort of social commerce?
That could be one of the example in the, but is it a two same product that you're going to sell in both Amazon and the Facebook group, or could be a different product altogether? So that's what I was just trying to figure out that part.
So you want me to jump in on this, Megla?
Yeah, Baptiste.
Okay.
So yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the digital native vertical brand model is a direct-to-consumer model. So selling on Amazon per se is a D2C model. But that being said, to address your question, a lot of people do advocate the fact that you should raise an audience first and then sell it to them then. But in my opinion, this doesn't. It shouldn't stop you from running PPC. You know, it's all about having that many options and actioning the lever in the right sequence so that you optimize your sales. You know, why choose one over the other? Just doesn't make sense. As long as you know every option that's at your available to you, then you sort of understand them and know which one you should activate first. And back to, again, profitability, and what Kevin said is amazingly important. You know, you should always make sure you're profitable in doing something. Don't go get, 1% more sales by spending a fortune. You know, that doesn't make sense. So make sure you can try something out first, very cheap, very house-made, and then see if it works. If it works, double down on the budget and maybe get someone that you pay so that you can leverage your time in the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks.
I think another thing is you have to, it depends on the product. So I've worked, for example, I've launched something on Indiegogo a few years ago. So how that worked was I spoke at a conference in the States. It had a cause, it had a story. And I said, okay, we're going to launch it on Indiegogo because it suited that channel. And then I've met different companies, talked to the bosses. Some of their products I would not touch with a 10-foot pole in terms of like Amazon. Like it just doesn't suit the Amazon. Amazon is just not a suitable sales model. Whereas for some things, Amazon is the perfect sales model. And sometimes it's not either or. Sometimes I've also done where it's both. Like we do an Indiegogo and then we do Amazon as well. And then we use Amazon to fulfill the Indiegogo orders. And then at the same time, we use those other channels to drive traffic to Amazon. So like I know one coffee company, for example, they're now, if you search anything to do with their coffee, they're on page 1 of any coffee related keyword, which is huge. They are just a little tiny company. And essentially they send out 400 packs of their coffee to influencers. Out of the 400 influencers, about 20 of them bothered to do something, but they went from selling 4,000 a month to 4,000 an hour because of the 20 influencers that bothered to write a review or do a YouTube video or do an Instagram post or whatever. So those were influencers reaching out to their communities who were interested in coffee. So it's not an either or, it just depends.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us over here today, and wish all of you a very, very, very happy new year, and we hope you crush it in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
And all the best for 2021.
Yes.
And see you all around.
See you around. Yes. See you in the Telegram group.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Take
bye
care.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.